you are supposed to fetch water on time, sweep this entire house so my girls will feel comfortable, and wash the dishes on time before joining me in the kitchen.
Before we begin, if you believe no child deserves to suffer in silence, take a second to like this video and subscribe. Stories like this need to be heard. At 13 years old, his aunt sent him out at midnight. Not because it was urgent. Not because it couldn't wait until morning. But because in that house, his safety did not matter. His name is Daniel. Daniel's parents had died when he was 4. A mysterious accident, they said. Too young to remember their faces clearly, he only remembered the feeling of being held. After the funeral, Daniel moved into his aunt's house. That was the last time he felt protected. She had 2 daughters, 7 and 5. They wore clean uniforms every morning. They ate hot meals at the dining table. They slept inside, under the fan. Daniel did not. Daniel stayed home when they went to school. He washed plates, scrubbed floors, fetched water, ran errands that even adults would avoid. When his aunt and her family ate, he waited. When they finished, he scraped what was left. His aunt's children would spoil things in the house and accuse Daniel wrongly. At night, when the lights went off, the girls went to their bedroom. Daniel spread a thin mat at the corridor entrance. Like a guard dog. Like he wasn't human. If he cried, he did it silently. Daniel learned early that tears only brought more punishment. And that night, the night everything changed. His aunt shook him awake long after everyone else was asleep. Go and get me all the items on the list. I need to use them first thing in the morning, she said sharply. Go and buy them now, I believe there will still be some shops that are open. It was almost midnight. The street outside was dark and quiet. Even the neighborhood generators had gone silent. Daniel stepped out barefoot. Like he always did. The air felt different. Heavy. Halfway down the road, Daniel noticed a van parked by the corner. Engine off. Windows tinted. His heart started beating faster. He told himself not to imagine danger. He had survived worse. Daniel walked past it. And suddenly, the door slid open. Rough hands grabbed him. A cloth pressed hard against his mouth. His body lifted from the ground. Daniel tried to scream. Nothing came out. When he opened his eyes again, he was inside a bus. Not alone. Several children were there. All tied. All shaking. Their mouths sealed with tape. Panic filled the air like smoke. Hours passed. Then something unexpected happened. The driver began arguing with the kidnappers. You will pay me complete, the driver shouted. I pass police checkpoints for you people. I risk everything. I'm done with this dirty job. The kidnapper stepped out of the bus, shouting back at him. The argument grew louder. And in that chaos, no one was watching the children. Daniel immediately felt the rope around his wrist. It wasn't tied tight enough. Carefully, slowly, ignoring the pain, Daniel twisted his hands. The rope slipped. Daniel didn't think twice. He removed the tape from his mouth and untied the boy beside him. Then another. Then another. The bus door wasn't locked. He pushed it open. And they ran. Into the bush. Through thorns. Over sharp stones. Branches scratching their skin. Behind them, angry voices shouted. But they didn't stop. They ran until their lungs burned. Until the shouting faded. Until fear became distance. By dawn, Daniel and the other kids didn't know where they were. He didn't know how to go back home. And deep inside, Daniel knew he didn't want to. That morning, standing barefoot in the middle of nowhere, he made a silent decision. If the world wanted him to survive, he would survive without anyone. And that was the last day he ever waited to be saved. The bridge became his new ceiling. Cardboard became his mattress. Hunger became his alarm clock. He carried loads in the market for coins. Washed cars at traffic stops. Ran errands for shop owners who barely looked at his face. At night, he slept lightly. The streets teach you quickly. Trust no one. Protect what little you have. Never show weakness. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. He grew taller. Stronger. Quieter. One afternoon, exhausted but determined, he stood in front of a large gate. Behind it stood a mansion, trimmed flowers, polished tiles, walls taller than anything he had ever lived behind. The security guard looked at him suspiciously. "What do you want?" "I want to walk," he replied calmly. "Any work. I just need somewhere to sleep and something to eat. No begging. No tears. Just dignity." The owner of the house, an elderly woman visiting from abroad, watched from her balcony. There was something different about him. Not desperation. Strength. Then, she agreed to give him a chance. He was given a simple uniform and a place in the gatehouse. He cleaned the compound. Watered the flowers. Swept every corner until it shone. When she traveled overseas to stay with her children, she sent money for his upkeep. He never stole. Never complained. Never slacked. Years passed. Daniel became the quiet backbone of that mansion. The old woman spoke about him often to her children abroad. "My gatekeeper is more loyal than family," she would say. Eventually, her children came to visit Nigeria. They expected exaggeration. Instead, they saw discipline. They saw trust. They saw a young man who treated someone else's property like it was his own. They observed him for days. How he greeted guests respectfully. How he fixed broken things without being asked. How he handled responsibility with maturity beyond his years. One evening, the old woman called him inside. Daniel stood nervously in the living room. Had he done something wrong? Instead, she smiled. "You deserve more than guarding my gate," she said. Her children had made a decision. They would take him abroad. He would learn a skill. Build a future. Create a life that could never be taken from him again. For the first time in his life, someone invested in him. The journey wasn't easy. New country. New language. New systems. But he learned fast. Very fast. Mechanics. Property management. Business basics. He absorbed knowledge the way a starving boy absorbs food. Years later, Daniel wasn't just employed. He was established. Contracts. Investments. Savings. Success built slowly, brick by brick. And one day, Daniel returned home. Not to beg. Not to fight. Just to stand on the very ground where everything began. Daniel stood across the street from his aunt's old house. The paint was peeling. The gate was rusted. The house that once made him feel small looked smaller now. Daniel felt no anger. No revenge. Only gratitude for the pain that forced him to grow. The boy who slept in the corridor became the man who owned his future. The boy who was sent out at midnight found his destiny in the dark. Sometimes, The worst night of your life is the beginning of your freedom. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs hope. Comment hope at last. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more insightful stories like this. There are a lot of children out there going through same pains and discomfort. And they are simply waiting for the moment the world stops holding them back.